Hello everyone, Todd here from the floor of the iGaming North America Conference, and I have been very blessed to have with me today Professor I. Nelson Rose of Whittier Law School and
University of Macau.
University of Macau, also
Yes.
teaching abroad, and you are a government?
I also act as a consultant and expert witness for governments and industry.
As it relates to gambling?
Only gambling, right.
Right. This is your area. I mean, this guy is the man when it comes to, he literally wrote the book on internet gaming law. You should bring that, maybe you could sell it for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to internet gambling and the law, this is the guy, all right? So everyone is talking about Black Friday.
Yes.
And before Black Friday, there was all these mergers and Wynn's going to work with PokerStars, and it looked like we were just steamrolling, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden, bam. So there's been a lot of talk at this event about what to expect, but I didn't see anyone asking you. And I'm thinking, why is no one asking the preeminent mind in our field? So I thought I'd get you on camera and say, hey, what are we missing? What should we be thinking about? And what comes next?
Well, I think there are a lot of interesting developments. I actually started writing a blog, that's a nice coincidence, just about a month ago on my website, gamblingandthelaw.com, and I'm just getting tens of thousands of hits on what is really going on. The very first one I wrote was I said Black Friday Prohibition Revisited. And then the next one was the Department of Justice a step too far, because they really stepped over the line. And there are, I'm a professor of law. I do act as a consultant and expert witness, but I look at it from the law point of view, and you wonder, okay, why the timing on this?
I think many people are wondering about the timing.
Right. They apparently started getting the information last April when they got a guy, an insider, who was turned over, and then for some reason the operators let him, of course he was going to cut a deal or get revenge, and they continued to operate the same way. So he had all the inside information, the bank account numbers, but the grand jury's been meeting for a year. It looked like it was somehow tied with all these very positive developments. We had Nevada regulators approving a deal between Caesars and 888. Steve Wynn announced his deal. The District of Columbia actually has legalized internet poker.
True.
So it looked like everything was happening. It could be, though, that it's simply the case came together. And the Department of Justice really is very unhappy about internet gambling. They think that it's illegal and people are becoming millionaires and billionaires, but they're looking for the easy case. Yeah, I didn't get very much of it either. They're looking for the easy case. Poker is not an easy case, but if the allegations are true, bribing a bank official in Utah, $20,000, which is an amazingly small sum, now we got an easy case.
Right. Yeah. There were some talks about the fact that they're with gambling law, that to prosecute under UIGEA, you really have to have a underlying state law violation.
Right.
And they're looking at these charges of illegal gambling. Really, that's not the thing they're most worried about. I don't think they're most worried about these bank fraud charges and money laundering charges.
Well, they are. Actually, I'm doing my next blog right now on looking through the indictment. Is it going to hold up? Like, okay, it's bank fraud, but for bank fraud, you have to defraud a bank, and including, for example, taking the bank's property. Well, the allegations were that they tricked the banks by saying we're selling dog food and jewelry. They tricked the banks into making millions of dollars. I mean, that's not a great fraud count. Every one of them, except for that potential bribery count, which they don't call bribery, by the way. Even there, they call it bank fraud. But where's the fraud? The guy knew what he was getting into. He owned a bank. They supposedly gave $10 million to buy 30% of a bank. So I guess maybe they were defrauding themselves. But everything depends. Apparently, the only statute they mention is the New York State misdemeanor statute, and it's not clear if you can use a state misdemeanor statute to get federal felonies against foreign corporations that are licensed in foreign countries. There's a real problem if a state statute reaches beyond its borders. They might even come up with, hey, poker is a game of skill and it's not gambling at all. But what's going on, and I think it's very important for like the people who are watching this to understand, they're not going after players. They can't go after players. There's no federal crime against making even illegal bets, even illegal sports bets by phone with a bookie. Okay, there's no federal crime. Half the states do have ancient laws on the books, but that could conceivably apply to players. They never go use them against players. But the Department of Justice is waging a war of intimidation. They are trying to scare everybody and are quite successful. They are scaring players and operators and payment processors, affiliates. They want people to leave the field. And so it's interesting because the war of intimidation is both successful and a horrible failure. They've gotten rid of so many of the big operators. They've scared away people. It's very hard to get your money to a site. You can't just use a credit card like you used to. But meanwhile, what the federal government is doing is making it harder to go after the next person. So when the UIGEA was passed, it scared all the publicly traded companies out of the business.
Right.
Party Gaming,
Right.
888. Okay. So now you end up with poker stars and private operators come in, and it's much harder to find out who are the owners. It's not just a publicly traded corporation on the London Exchange. Then they go after payment processors. So now the payment processors aren't corporations. They're people in other countries. We don't even know where they are or who they are. If you get rid of the best known names, then you're going to get sleazier new operators perhaps. And if you get rid of if it becomes too hot for licensed operators, then there are a lot of people who don't have a license. Maybe they say they do, maybe they don't even claim to, who won't even tell you what country they're in, who would be willing to take the bets from the United States.
Just like in the old Prohibition, you get the speakeasies.
This is prohibition, right? And prohibition is not regulation. So it's very important to understand what is happening, that it's a war of intimidation. It's like raid after raid on speakeasies, on bootleggers, but just like prohibition didn't eliminate drinking alcoholic beverages, prohibition on internet gambling isn't going to stop people from betting.
Not even close. It hasn't stopped me. Well, not that I would.
No, not you would. Yeah.
No.
Well, you're
ever.
not breaking the law if you're making a bet.
Well, I live in Washington State.
Okay,
I
never
play
mind.
only free games.
Yes, yes.
Tell me real quick, if we can wrap this up, what comes next? What can we see? Regulation maybe soon, maybe 2 or 3 years? I mean, is it really wide open?
Well, I think, first of all, it's like prohibition, which means there are great opportunities for people who don't have any contacts with the United States to now set up. There's a lot of, I'm getting calls from people who have all these alternatives, like completely legal poker on Indian land, or free alternative means of entry games or skill games, subscription models. I think it's definitely not going to stop internet gambling. It's important for people in other countries to understand, though, that the U.S. doesn't make laws logically. This doesn't mean, that the only way what we now have to regulate it, legalize it so we can then tax it and control it. No. That's not the way the U.S. makes laws.
The U.S. doesn't make law logically? That's possibly the understatement of the century,
Right,
sir.
right. So, but what has happened is the states are desperate for money, right?
Yeah.
46 of the states are saying they'll have budget deficits, and they can't print money the way the federal government can. They've got to balance the books. Interestingly, the same force that says we're going to have internet gambling also makes it difficult. There's so much legal gambling. 48 of the states have commercial gambling.
Yeah.
So, all right, if you've already got every other form, who cares that much about internet poker? But it also means 48 of the states have got present operators, and they want to protect themselves and not let in the big operators. And the states don't want to legalize to protect local operators. The states are doing this to raise money. They want Caesars to be able to bid a couple $100 million for a license in California. But the California card clubs and tribes don't want to allow seizures in at all. So that's what the fight is about. I see, I think the states are so desperate. California, we actually voted on whether to legalize marijuana for tax revenue. So if you're talking about...
I've always liked California.
But if you're talking about legalizing pot, who cares about internet poker? So it's going to happen. It'll be on the state level. Once California, New Jersey, Florida breaks through, then other states will follow. But the federal government, nothing's going to happen for a few years.
All right. Well, sir, you are just a walking encyclopedia of everything we could want to know.
Well,
I truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
You are so busy, and you took the time to come on our show, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. It's very nice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.